Hello there everyone, it's uxwbill here once again, and I think it's high time to take a look at this Dell OptiPlex 745 computer. This is, for those of you who are just tuning in, a computer that I bought at a hamfest for the princely sum of $1 because this little note was attached to it. By the time I got it home, however, it didn't finish post and it definitely didn't beep. Fortunately, Dell had a very good idea, or rather someone within Dell had a very good idea when they placed a set of 4 LED indicators with numbers over them on the front panel of these and similar OptiPlex machines. Those numbers illuminate during the power on self-test or post-process to indicate where the machine is in its range of self-tests, and then they go out completely once the system is ready to pass control over to an operating system. In this case, the machine was not beeping, but it was illuminating lights 2 and 4, which according to Dell's technical literature online indicates a video card problem. I suspected that this machine had an issue with either inappropriate memory being installed in it or a video card problem. This does have onboard video, but as you can see, there is a plug over the onboard video connector with a no symbol. And that plug can simply be pried off of there if you want to use the onboard video. It is otherwise perfectly functional, but in this case, the machine has an add-on video card with a rather unique connector on it. You would think that the standards for video connectors were pretty well established between VGA, DVI, and even HDMI, but I guess there's always room for one more on the bandwagon. Either that or they're cheaper by the dozen. Good thing I've got the pigtail that goes with it. I bought another Dell machine a couple years ago that didn't actually have the matching pigtail, and so I had to dump the video card. Now, my first thought concerning this machine's problem was that the video card itself had probably fried. You can see on the heatsink there that there is a heat symbol indicating that that becomes hot enough during normal operations that touching it would probably be a bad idea. You can also see another requirement in the School of Video Card Design. Apparently all the video card designers learned there that it's a good idea to place electrolytic capacitors right next to the hottest running thing on the circuit board. So at first I thought, simple matter of a fried video card. So I pulled the other video card from the other Dell machine with that unique connector on it out. Amazingly, I knew exactly where it was, slapped it into this thing, and to my great surprise, it completed the power on self-test. But being the curious sort that I am, I decided to go ahead and reinstall the original video card. And it amazes me that the people selling this computer did not think to do this, because it really was that simple. Reseating the video card got this machine starting. So I found a little bit of actually very nice memory in my junk box, 2 gigabytes total with some very flashy heat sinks on it. I think those were removed from a machine that the motherboard failed in. And also found some hard drives, but my hard drive selection was not as good as I'd hoped because I only had a choice between a 500 gigabyte, very slim Seagate drive, and a 1 terabyte, not gigabyte, Hitachi drive that was pilfered from a dead Apple time capsule. So let me go ahead and hook this thing up so that you can see that it works, and then I guess I'll get into the process of actually putting this together and making it into a working system. I will need to come up with a power supply. For right now I'm going to use this one, just because I know it to work, and it's also one of the few that I have which I feel would be safe to run a modern system that would put a significant load on a power supply. The Dell power supply that I found actually does power on, but when I popped it open, I was shocked that it even still worked, to be perfectly honest about it, because I have seen some crispy power supplies in my time. I've never seen one that crispy that still happened to actually work. It's got a lot of blown capacitors in it as well, simply because the fan wasn't running at all. I don't know if it'll be worthwhile to repair that or not, but for a test, this power supply, 450 watt Nlight, will be more than good enough. So let's get that hooked up and have a little test here. I think it actually looked so much neater before I put the power supply in. Too bad it's required to make the computer work. Now, while this is a weenie modern computer that normally shipped without PS2 ports, it is a weenie modern computer with a redeeming factor, as previously mentioned, because there is actually a riser on the motherboard into which a ribbon cable plugs to give you true PS2 ports for both the mouse and the keyboard, and a second serial port as well. So connecting a good old IBM Model M to this system is absolutely not a problem. I can only guess as to why the video card stopped working. This adapter on the back of it is fairly weighty and it sticks out quite a bit. It wouldn't surprise me if someone jammed this system up against a wall, as is so very common, and the video card just gradually got worked out of its socket because there's nothing more substantial holding it than this plastic retaining assembly on the edge of the case here. There is no retaining screw to keep it in place. Let's go ahead and power it up. And there we go. Look at that. We should probably go into setup. I would imagine it's going to be unhappy about more than a few things. And here's just a quick look at what's going on in setup. It looks like we could probably use a newer BIOS for this machine. See what kind of a processor is in it. It says it's a Core 2 CPU, a 6300 at 1.86 gigahertz, bus speed of 1066 megahertz, 2 megabytes of L2 cache. Seems like a pretty decent little processor. Not hyper-threading capable, but who cares? It's much better to have multiple cores, and it is 64-bit capable. Even the time and date is not too terribly far off on this thing, if you can believe it. Now, there's no operating system of any kind installed on it, so I can't possibly hope to boot into anything. But let me look around and see if I can find something like a live Linux on CD that we can try starting it up with. Well, you wouldn't know it to watch the video, thanks again to the magic of video editing, but it's actually been quite a few hours since I had to leave this project because I started out getting a call from the junkyard saying that some parts had come in for the big bad wagon. And then I moved on to doing some computer work for a couple different people and securing access to a building that I had been mistakenly locked out of. I finally got home after all of that fun, and then the keykeeper wanted to take his even bigger green piece of junk down to an automotive electrical shop to have the starter repaired and overhauled and also the charging system inspected. It was about 4 o'clock when I left. It's about 15 minutes after midnight now, so I guess you could say I've been busy, but in all the time that I've been gone, this thing hasn't died, so that's promising. I think it's time to see. Go ahead and shed a little light on the situation here so you can see it a little bit better. I've not actually used the DVD burner, the CD burner in this computer since I took it apart and repaired it, so I really don't know for sure whether or not it works, but I'm going to go ahead and fire up the disk burning software here. This thing was producing a power calibration error whenever I attempted to burn at least, I think, DVDs with it, and I took it apart to find that the lens was actually clouded. So after a couple of moments of watching this cool thing, hopefully it'll be ready. It hasn't crashed out with an error just yet. I did a little looking into the Intel Core 2 Duo 6300 CPU that is used as the heart of this computer, and it seems to be a very, very well-reviewed chip, especially amongst the overclocking community. Regular users seem to like it very well. In fact, I only noticed a few complaints from folks who bought one rather late in the processor's life cycle and found it to be replaced by a newer and more capable CPU much sooner than they would have liked. However, that's just the way things are, because technology, like rust, definitely never sleeps. And now, if you'll forgive me, a little mini rant about video cards. You know what drives me nuts about video cards? The fact that they can print all kinds of information on them, but they can never seem to print the name of the actual GPU that is in use. Now, I know this can be determined in software, and that a lot of times the drivers are unified enough that if you've got an educated guess as to what general family or generation a given graphics card belongs to, you can probably figure it out and do all right. But that doesn't help when you've got a bunch of graphics cards in a junk box and you're trying to figure out which one is the best one. It's no fun to sit and try them all. And I find it humorous to note that in addition to the unique video connector on this card, the one that requires a breakout adapter to use, that a number of things are printed on here, including a not particularly useful NVIDIA Corporation model number next to the FCC certification logo, and an NVIDIA logo itself. Now, if they can print those things on this board, would it really have killed them to identify what particular GPU, or at least what generation of GPU was used on this board? I don't think so, but it must be pretty hard because nobody seems to do it. Now check this out. I just happened to notice this as I was paging through the setup screens. This machine has some obscenely fast memory installed. It's actually PC2 8500, but I guess that's a little too high-tech for this particular revision of the machine's BIOS to handle. Alright, there's no escaping it now. It's time for the real test. I have right here a freshly burned compact disc containing a copy of Ubuntu Linux, and I'm feeling bold. It's the 64-bit version, just because this system is 64-bit capable. So we'll go ahead and stick that in there. I have no idea if the optical drive in this machine actually works. I did throw a disk in it, but it made some funny noises and it claimed that there was no bootable device. So I guess we'll see what happens when this thing restarts, and hopefully this monitor will convey the appropriate information to the operating system and it won't go into a mode it can display, which would annoy me greatly. Okay, this is not great news. The optical drive is making funny noises, it's blinking its light continuously, and the computer refuses to boot from it, so I guess it's got some kind of a problem. Unfortunately, I only have one other serial ATA optical drive that I know of. It's midnight, it's up 3 flights of stairs, and I really don't feel like going up those stairs unless I am making the final trip to my bed for this evening. So it's time to pop that out of there and have a look at it, see if I can persuade it to play ball, I guess. Okay, I didn't really feel like doing it, but I went upstairs and I got the second drive because my attempts to revive the first one were not successful, and my only guess is that while it achieves focus lock, something is obviously wrong in the optics that prevents it from doing the rest of the stuff that it needs to do. Now, this is a drive that I got from a garage sale. The owners claimed that they had never used it, but I've never tested it, so I really have no idea if it works. But I'll get it set up and ready to go to work in this computer and see what happens if I don't drop a screw on the floor first like a real pro. Alright, well, it opens like a champ, and it closes like a champ, but the first drive did that too. Let's see if it actually spins up and achieves focus lock here. Oh, come on, drive, I don't have all night. Alright, let's see what happens. Well, that sounds promising. Oh yeah, that's definitely looking a lot better than it was. And just a quick word to the peanut gallery, if I may. No negative comments about the operating system, please. It's just an operating system, it's just a test, and while it might not be your favorite, it will work admirably for that purpose. Thank you. So who else out there remembers when you could actually hear a monitor changing modes through either relay clicks as different circuitry was energized to handle the new scanning frequency and resolution, or through actual changes in the sound of the synchronization and sweep circuits inside the monitor? It's pretty old school, but it's still kind of awesome. I'd say that's a pretty good test. Let's go ahead and shut this thing down. Thank you for watching, and feel free to leave a comment if you have one.